What's up, man? Let me make sure you're unmuted.
What's going on?
Man, it's good to see you, man. How you been?
Good. How you been, man?
Doing okay. Been back in Chicago for a couple years now.
Okay.
Yeah, just living.
Nice. Not too many better places to be than Chicago, man.
Yeah, it's funny, all these places. I've asked, and I'm gonna get into that on when we get into things, but
Uh,
it's just cool being home. Like
yeah, yeah,
all these places we've been, but it's home is a little different.
yeah. Because where were you before you went back home?
I was in Peoria for I stayed in town for 4 years about, and then I was basically over on the east side of the river. I was working at
Okay.
Caterpillar.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
How was that experience?
it was all right. You know how everybody was like, "Yo, don't go to Pekin."
Yeah.
So I ended up living there for I think a year or so, and I
Uh-huh.
was around town. Like I went to the golf course. I was just going
Yeah.
places, and it was nobody said anything. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying everybody
man.
was wrong, but
No, yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised every day. I was like, man, I'm just
Yeah,
waiting for something
sometimes
to
you
happen.
just gotta figure things out for yourself, I mean, you heed and take advice, but and to you live it or go through it yourself or and figure things out, man. And if you don't encounter any problems or nothing nothing comes across as threatening or hey, that was a little different, that sort of thing. It's like, hey, my experience was good, so it's just like I said, it's just all about really it's about treating others the way you want to be treated. And I mean, not everybody thinks that way, but you can only start with yourself.
For sure.
So
No, you
yeah,
get it, man.
definitely.
All right,
What's up with
so
the Sox, man? What's going on, man? The Sox
we
trying
out.
to do something this
You
year.
see, we out here, man. We're finally out here. Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson is the face of
Man,
the league, and I love it.
I gotta get it. I gotta get a jersey, man. Tim Anderson jersey sounds like.
Woo,
Yeah,
man.
I need him. I need Tatis Jr. I need a Mookie Betts jersey.
Mookie,
I'll be good.
man, that dude he's been the truth for a minute,
I
man.
know, I know. He just got his 1,000 hit the other night, last night. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty
Pretty good.
decent. But yeah, man, like I said, everything that we're going to discuss was on there. Just like
Okay.
broad concepts, I'll ask. I looked up, um, career stuff for you, and just like I had to
Yeah.
refresh myself on some of the Bradley stuff because I want to talk about that just because that was, it's college, right? It's formative. So
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha.
we'll get into it. Let's see. Give a five count, and then we'll be going.
Okay.
All right, five, four, three, two. What's up, everybody out there in the world? Welcome back once again to What's Good Radio. I am, as always, Chris Pennant, aka your favorite writer's favorite writer, and I got a special guest on the podcast today. It's been a minute, we're not recording these on the regular, but I've reached out to my man here, and he graciously agreed to come on the show. So I want to introduce to y'all my Bradley University classmate from Com 101, Andrew Warren, starting guard for the Bradley University Braves team during my time there, 2006 to 2000. Was it 2010 or 2011 when we got out, man?
2011. Yeah.
2011.
2011. Yeah.
And he's a pro basketball player, played all over the world from Australia to Cyprus to Germany. And like I said, he graciously agreed to come on the show, talk about his life in basketball. Just coming up as we both did, coming out of Jesuit high schools in the Midwest, and about the state of sports today and how it's intersecting with politics, social justice, and want to ask him how it feels to be a soon-to-be father. So, Drew, man, appreciate you coming on the show. How you doing?
Good, man. I really appreciate you having me on. We've always stayed in contact here and there throughout the last 10 years since we've been out of college. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but man,
Right.
when you think about it, it starts making you feel old. But thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it, and happy to be a part of this.
Oh, for sure, man. It really doesn't feel like it's been that long. I think one of my everlasting memories is one of the toughest seasons that we probably had. I think it was that last season, and it was the day before that big snowstorm we had, the snow day, and Creighton came in, and they were all the hype. They had Doug McDermott on
Yep,
the
yep,
squad, and we ended up beating them. I think you had a breakaway to seal it. And I know McDermott airballed one, and everybody was screaming at him like overrated, coach's kid, like that. But it was, for the most part, it was fun times. But I want to talk about a little bit before that, how you came in, because you came out of Indianapolis, Indiana, you know, basically the cradle of basketball. If you talk to anybody from Indiana, and I watched a little bit of the podcast you did with Coach Ashworth, and he was talking about everybody who came out around that time. So, what was it like coming up at Brebeuf in when you were in high school?
Um, it was competitive. I mean, ever since the time we were kids, like you said, I mean, being from Indiana, they say in basketball in 49 other states it's just basketball, but this is Indiana. You hear all these different type of things, and uh, but it's true to an extent because we really value youth basketball. I mean, all the way up through high school, college. I mean, we got some of the craziest fans. These IU Hoosier fans is still hanging on to the Bobby Knight, title days, and
Right.
thinking IU, so but we take basketball serious. Even we go back far as, like I said, youth leagues, and I mean the games used to be packed. The parents yelling and coaching from the sidelines, like. And there was a particular league called Municipal Gardens, which is kind of like in the inner city in Indianapolis, and I mean the who's who of who's in the NBA now, who were McDonald's All-Americans or top college players. They played in this league, and we were all there around the same time. It was just kind of like a huge era from few years before me, several years after me, and just talented kids. So very competitive. I mean, every night you were playing against a very talented team who, a lot of these teams ended up having at least one guy who played high level Division I or multiple, or even, on a high average, somebody that ended up in the NBA. So very competitive.
And then you came over to Bradley, and it was the school was coming off of that NCAA Sweet 16 run the year before we came into school, and then that first year went to the NIT, and I think there was a lot of
Mhm.
expectations for the team. You're coming from Indiana, which, like you said, everybody's crazy about basketball, and then Peoria's had such a long like high school tradition. The guys who went to U of
Mhm.
I, who went to Peoria,
Mhm.
who went to other schools, so it's a similar atmosphere. And so not yet getting into like how things changed over time, but that first year, what was that like? You're coming in as a freshman. What'd you expect, and what actually happened for you?
It was just a new challenge. I mean, just like you said, that excitement and that aura at that time with the former player who's now the head coach, and who, when he was a player, had, they had glory days in the 80s, and with Hersey Hawkins and all those guys, and Coach Versace. And then, for him to kind of bring that back by having some success, and then Patrick O'Brien getting drafted to the NBA. Like,
Right.
there was just, it seemed like a great time to be a part of Bradley basketball, and it was, you know just things, all, there's things how we always see them as people, and they don't always go according to how we plan them out in our head. But and that happened over time. But my experience overall was great, and just getting there was just like this big-eyed, wide-eyed freshman who's like all this opportunities in front of him. And with all the excitement going on, I was ready to kind of hit the ground running, and kind of create some type of, like, let's keep this thing going. Like, what else can we do? Like a lot of people saw during that same time, even several years before me, what Butler did, and
Right.
just kind of starting their tradition of a similar school, similar. I mean, people ask, I say, yeah, I went to Bradley. Say, oh, where's Bradley? Oh, Peoria, Illinois. I said, you ever heard of Butler? Say, it's like the Butler of Illinois. That's what I tell people in Indiana. So um, similar things, and I thought we really had a chance to make that happen. And but it didn't happen that way. But hey, I was excited once I got to Bradley. Just a big atmosphere of college basketball. Like you said, I think they call Peoria the land of 10,000 coaches. All the people there, in their basketball tradition. So I think that's why I actually fit in well there, because it reminded me a lot of just being at home.
Now, going forward as it went from '06 to '07 to '08, there was some upheaval just with the coaching change. And I mean, I was on the outside looking in on that. So without, I know you're a professional, don't need to get into anything you don't want to get into, but what changed for the program, and how'd that affect you? How'd that affect the team?
Um, well, I think one of the things that people may not realize, I mean, it's easy to see, but they don't realize the effect is like, so you have Patrick O'Brien leave and go to the NBA. We still had a pretty good year overall, and we were right there to making the championship of the MVC tournament game, and we lost like last second on a last second putback. If you
Yeah, I
remember the
remember that.
Southern, um, we just came up a little bit short. We had some injuries every year. It seemed like to like an important player. Um, we had coaches get good opportunity. Lennox Forrester, he left and took a job as the head coach at SIUE. I mean, these little things that people might not see as a big deal can heavily influence a college basketball program. And like you said, we had some recruits that were supposed to come in, and they didn't either pan out, or there was one guy was supposed to come in with me and he didn't even get into school once the summer was over. So you had all these different variables that ended up adding into this, but um, it's not one particular person as like a coach, or it wasn't any particular players or set of players' fault. It's just all these things combined, which people don't realize how complicated a college a college program is, and so many things have to work like a well-oiled machine for it to work properly. And sometimes a few things out of whack can hinder that success. And um, you know, overall, my experience was great. I love playing for Coach Les, and I think he did a great job with what he had. And we just weren't able to kind of get back to that success that we had before I got there. And nobody's to blame, in my opinion. Just things happened, and and now it's over and done with. It is what it is.
You still keep up with the school when basketball season comes? Well, I mean, not right now, obviously with everything going
Mhm,
on, but you've been keeping up with
mhm.
Bradley over the years.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I've really enjoyed seeing their success the past couple years. Not just like when they're doing well. Like I keep up with them when, during the several years after Coach Les was gone, and they had even worse years than when my last couple years. So you just like to, because and that was because there were still guys there that I knew that I had relationships with, that sort of thing. And but you always just click on, with the beauty of the internet is you can just type in something really really quickly and find a box score and see who did what, or and what was the final score was. So I always keep up with what's going on. And like I said, now Coach Wardle's got a really good thing going there, and I hope that they can continue the run that they're on and keep having success, because he's doing a really great job with the program right
For,
now.
sh- for sure, man. As a D1 athlete, there's been a lot of talk over the past few years, probably going back maybe 10 or so, really even further than that, just about the revenue that college athletes generate for the individual schools.
Hmm.
And Bradley being a smaller school, it is what it is. But basketball was always the number one thing because there was no football team,
Hmm.
and Peoria wasn't a city that had like a high level professional team. So Bradley basketball was it. If you had any thoughts about, not specifically for your time, but do you think that athletes deserve to at least, to get some of that revenue coming back to them? Would that be helpful? Would you have liked that as a college athlete?
Of course, I wouldn't say no to money that I'm helping to generate. I think if any person at any job is generating some type of income or revenue for their particular company, that they see that on the back end of either their salary, or some type of bonus or anything like that. But um, I get there's a lot of tricky things that how we have this money coming in, how much stays with the program, how much goes to the coaches, how much goes to the players, vice versa. I think with all the teams being in conferences, it could be something done through the conferences. I think there's ways to make it happen, but you know, coming from a place where like if I needed some money, I could call my dad and he would put some, a couple $100 in my account and I'm fine. And I just, when I asked, it's kind of there. Well, we had some guys who, they didn't have that same luxury. So yeah, I think that we should be getting paid because we're essentially athletes. I mean, students, and then also athletes where, we don't have the luxury to go get a job as some students do. They say, oh, well, I'm helping to earn money. I have a job or something. They do a little job as well as go to school. Like basketball is our job. So, um, we don't have that same luxury to really earn money elsewhere. So I think we should get some type of. I'm not saying it has to be like all this money, especially like you get into different revenue streams of like a high D1 major school as opposed to like
Right.
a Bradley, a mid major. But I think there's ways that it can be done to where the players are taken care of and they have their scholarship, they have their room and board and everything. But as a human being, you still need a little pocket money to do things. You
Right.
want to go to the movies, you still need some clothes here and there. Like to have that and not to be, to have to do something or ask somebody that maybe you shouldn't for this money. It should be there because basketball, which what we're at school for, along with studying, that is our job. So
For sure, man. I remember watching the documentary on the U, that 30 for 30 that came out the first year, and Uncle Luke was talking about, guys needed, he wanted to go out with, on Friday or something like that. And
mm,
it's true, it's not the same just because I think there's a kind of an illusion for people who are in just a student position, and after you get to the
mm,
professional athletic level, people feel like they're on a different tier, like athletes are on a different tier. But there's still some of that
mm.
where you don't want to be stuck in your dorm room all the time, even if you're in like
No.
off-campus housing.
Yeah, I mean, and technically we are on a different tier. Not to say that to sound arrogant, but we are. And it's like if you complain about that or you have a problem with it, well, come, I let's go through a weekly for a week. Let's go through a schedule we have to do as athletes and see if this is something you want to do. Or you should have been an athlete. Hey, life isn't fair. We don't always get what we want, but you should have been an athlete.
Hey man, there's a lot of 5'4" guys who are better than me.
I mean, I'm just saying, it don't just have to be basketball. There's baseball. There's, other sports, tennis, everything. Hey, it's benefits to doing, certain jobs. Just like, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, there's certain benefits as opposed to if you're, you know, you have some other job. So, hey, it is what it is.
That's fair play. So coming out of college, you ended up playing
Mhm.
in Cairns down in Australia. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
Because that's a long way.
So a lot of people always ask, oh, how do you get into playing overseas? I mean, I had a great senior year statistically, you know, and was approached by agents. I was lucky to go to Portsmouth, which is like the top senior workout. There's all these agents and coaches and general managers from these overseas teams there. And so you talk to agents, like when you're not there, you're going out to dinner or lunches or something with the agents, and they approach you and, hey, I would like to work with you, try to place you somewhere. And I had an opportunity to get signed by agency, which, then in turn I got some NBA workouts. And then all of that stuff, you don't realize till you're going through the process of, you might be at an NBA workout, go through the workout, do pretty good, and the NBA team has no interest in you at all. But it's good to do the workout because they know other people that know other people, and they're just calling and say, "Hey, this guy, he's 6'5", whatever, shooting guard. He's pretty good. He can shoot, da da da." And then that leads to another phone call, and then all of a sudden, a team in Australia calls your agent and goes, "Hey, we're interested. We want to sign you. Here's what we're offering." Yeah, that's how I ended up there. And boy, I tell you, that was the longest flight I've ever taken. I mean, getting over there, I mean, but for me, that was probably the best experience that, one of the best experiences of my life, just that first year and uh, being somewhere totally different, out of the country, to experience another country and another culture. Um, it was unbelievable. I mean, I could replay that year over and over again. If my life got stuck like on Groundhog's Day and just played over and over again, man, it would be the best life ever.
And that's interesting because I can't think of any other jobs that I found where they'll refer you, like if they don't, if you do an interview, right, and then they were, it's like, hey, when we just talked to this guy, he doesn't fit with us, but we want to kind of give him over to you. I can't think of another industry that would be like that, or that I've been involved in. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that I mean that's sports in general. Now, I'm still playing, but I'm networking to lay the groundwork for the future and just talking to different coaches and stuff because I'm interested in coaching at all, in the college level. And that's another thing. They're like, build as many relationships as you can. And it's one of those things, it's like, I'm really close with you, but I don't have anything for you here. But let me call my guy at this other school, and he speaks highly of you to his buddy who has a spot and make it place you. That I mean, it's huge. So yeah, sports is uh, one of the few industries where that actually really benefits you. That's why you got to just make sure that you represent yourself and carry yourself in the right way because you never know who knows who, and a lot of people know the same people because it's a big it's small, but at the same time it's a big fraternity, but everybody kind of knows somebody within a few different phone calls or relationships with different people. So um it's unique, but you have to navigate it the proper way so that you don't downplay your worth or your value.
For sure, man. And that's still really interesting to me. Just that I think the networking aspect too. I remember my mom talking about that. It's like make sure you
Hmm.
make these contacts, and it's this. So it really it's sports, it's athletics, but it's still kind of the same in that way in terms of just a profession. You gotta keep your ears open, make sure you stick with the right people when you meet them, right?
100%, 100%. So um, that that's all. That I mean, and that, but that the networking piece really goes with everything. It's not always who you know, what you know, but it's who you know. And I think a lot of people our age and maybe a little bit younger don't don't grasp that concept until they start going through the process of trying to get a job and no matter the field and then having conversation with people and they go, oh man, I didn't network as good as I could. I need to, if I want to get to, if my goal's here, I need to start networking better or something like that. Or you have people that network really good early and it helps catapult them up really quickly in an industry of whatever they choose to do. And they say, oh, it was my networking. I wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't nothing special I did. I just knew people. I made relationships with people and that helped bump me up quicker. So yeah, it's really interesting.
I want to kind of come forward to this year with the pandemic.
Uh,
Like the whole league, and you were with Germany over in the top league,
hmm
BBL, and that everything
hmm
shut down. What did it come as a? I know you had to be watching the news at a certain point once everything really started coming up with the cruise ship and everything. But what was the plan? Like what happened and where'd you go after that? Were you calling around to see if you could still play somewhere where things were okay, or did you just decide to come home straight away?
There really was no plan. I think it was, I wouldn't say panic, but it was just like we went from, so we had a break from the beginning of February, middle of February. We didn't play for like first week in February to like the end of the first week of March. So it was a break for FIBA, like international games, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But we didn't play. So we come back, we go to like a little training camp because we had been off for like 3 weeks. We go to a little training camp for like a week after everybody had been on vacation for a week. And we come back, we had just gotten a new coach and everything. And so we started to practice. Then all of a sudden, actually, we had a home game. I actually ended up not playing in the home game. I was sick. So I had the flu. Had a fever for three. So after this, and you start to hear all this stuff. And I was like in Paris and went to Belgium and they're like, oh, you have to get tested for this coronavirus. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I guess like whatever works. They're like, yeah, like with everything going on right now, you have to have this done. So I go and get tested and they're like, yeah, you got to wait. It takes like 3 days or something. And so like it came back. They said it was only regular flu. That's what they said, but I'm telling you, I swear I had the
Damn,
coronavirus. I
man.
swear I had. But after that, then we were supposed to play the next Friday. So this was like we played Friday. I did Friday or Saturday. I didn't play. Got tested Monday. Got the results back Wednesday. We were supposed to play Friday. So I started work. You know, we were working out as a team and practicing still. And then they on that Wednesday or Thursday they canceled the game. They were like, yeah, we're not having the game. But still, there was nothing set and they're like,
Mhm.
no, we're canceling. They didn't say we're canceling the season or it's going to be postponed. It was just like they canceled one game. So we were like, man, and then you start hearing more and more come through the news. Like every like 12 hours, it was like it started getting worse and worse. Then they start shutting down the borders, and so now everybody. So then after they canceled the game, guys started kind of panicking. They were like, you know, should we leave? Should we not? A buddy of mine was playing in Italy. He just left because he was like, you know, that was where it was bad. And so
Right.
he just left kind of like, I'm trying to get home because he's got kids and a family. And, you know, so he's like, man, just get out of it. He's calling me kind of not panicking, but just kind of like,
Like he was
dude,
scared.
man, the money's not worth it. Like, what's going to like get back while you can, or you probably gonna get stuck over there, and who knows how long. So then you start getting stuff like that, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna stick around. So so after that we didn't play, they met the following beginning of like the following week, and they were like, yeah, the season's canceled. And everybody was trying to figure out if it was canceled or they were just saying it was postponed, this and that. So it just went from like like, hey, we don't know what's going on, to like a full, it's canceled. If you want to go home, you can go home, but you can stay here, because that was what, like I said, that was when the travel started getting restricted.
Right.
And some guys even stayed around. Some guys was like, no, I'm leaving. And because, you know, you started hearing things come out on the news, and it kind of went in a little panic for a little bit, but everybody ended up being okay. So
That's wild, man, that you said you were sick right at the start of it, and just, I mean, that has to be kind of like unsettling once you hear the news, and then you start thinking about it, like, you know, is this? And you said you swear you had it. They just said it was the flu, right?
yeah, they said it was like influenza A or something. But you know, now I'm looking back on a lot of these tests, and they're saying like, oh, there was a lot of false negatives and all this stuff with the tests, and they didn't stick the thing way up. It was just like a quick like mouth
Oh,
swab and a
okay.
quick swab right on the inside of the nut, and that was it. So I'm like, man, I don't know if they did the right test. But if they say I didn't have it, I did. If they say I didn't have it, I didn't have it. But yeah, it was a little bit scary moment, especially when they were talking about closing the borders, because then you didn't know what to believe. And then it ended up, you know, one guy was from Canada. He really panicked and was like, I'm out. And he left like quick. He called the management. He said, look, just give me the money. I'm owed. I don't care about none of the other money. Like, just some guys were like, I want to wait around and see, because, you know, we were talking about our contract. We still had a couple months left. So
Right.
money wise, guys, we wanted to see what we can get. In Germany's structured well to where when you sign a contract, you're entitled to that whole, it's a guaranteed deal no
Okay.
matter what. So, you know, some people are like, well, I'm gonna wait and see what amount of money I get, if I can get all my money. And it just, so everybody kind of reacted a little bit different. But yeah.
As you've been over, um, back in India, you're still over in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm in South Bend right now.
Okay.
But it's still Indiana. I'm
Right.
close. So my wife is from here, so I'm with her at the moment.
What's the difference been, just in the, I guess, the public reaction from the time you were over there? I mean, it was the early days where things were kind of in a
Hmm.
panic and uncertainty. But as you've been back over the past few months, can you compare the two? Just like what you saw from the public, from your teammates, the personnel you knew on the team, to how it's been as you've been back here in the States in Indiana.
Um, Now I would say from the beginning, it's about the same as to where it is now. Because at the beginning, everybody was like, well, what is this? What is everybody talking about? Nobody was wearing masks. You know, there was no social distancing going on. It was, you know, it was just everybody didn't know what was going on. Then you had the full panic where everybody was like, you can't go nowhere unless you're
Right.
going to the store. You got to have a mask, or you got to social distance. Only this many people can come in a certain place. And like it was all these things. Um, Now, what I will say is the difference was that Germany took everything like they were on it from the beginning, like pretty quick. Like once everything got out there, they kind of figured out what it was, how this virus kind of operates. They kind of shut everything down. Uh, don't be out. Don't be like they shut all the businesses down. And then at home, meanwhile, like everything was just normal, 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 normal. So by the time I was leaving Germany, because I stayed until like the end of April, by the time I was leaving, they were like, everything's getting back to normal, not complete normal, but people were starting to be back out again. They were like, don't be in large groups, but you can kind of get back out if you want to be outside and walk around and go on walks. And it
Right.
was getting to that point in Germany. So it had really kind of spiked, leveled off, and was everything was on the decline. Where I come back here, everything's like, it's like, when you just get on the roller coaster, you just start going up the hill and it
Right. It was
starts
just
ramping
getting
up.
there.
That's how it was here. Yeah. And everybody was still like in the panic here, like, don't go nowhere. Stuff's closed. Stay at home unless you're going to get essentials or whatever. So that was kind of seeing that whole thing was kind of like living in two different lives, because where I was leaving, it was like, okay, we got it under control. It's still not figured out, but it's getting better. And over here, it's like, man, this thing's just getting started, and who knows how bad it's going to get. So, and now you see everybody's kind of almost people my age, they kind of acting like it's not there no more. Like I
Right.
see people out and in big groups, so it is what it is.
Now it's too early to tell, obviously, but I mean, I guess it's from what we hear, from what I hear, without following the news too much. It seems like Europe, most of Europe has a handle on things, both just because the smaller country size, but because, like you said, a lot of countries were really quick and really firm about shelter in place and all that, and kind of
Mhm.
easing people back in. So I know you've had a couple, like 3 good years at least at Mitteldeutsche at NBC. Do you think you're going to go back, or do you think that they're going to have basketball within the next year, the next 2 years?
So those guys, the team that they have for this upcoming season, they're there now. So I had a second year in place. They didn't pick up the option because they were like, "Oh, we don't have any money."
Okay.
Uh, because of the corona, like our sponsorship money, whatever. Their budget has shrunk, so they didn't want to pay me the contract. So they basically had to pay me like a small buyout to not, honor the second year of the contract. So I'm kind of like a free agent at the moment, and just kind of trying to stay ready. And I know my worth as a player. The market is very bad this year, so you know what I would typically get paid or make this in a typical season. Guys now are signing for like 50-60% less than that, or there's a few teams that have approached me to try to sign me for 50 or 60% less than what I should be playing for. And for me, it's my job, but at the same time, I know my worth, so I'm not going to put myself out there for that low amount of money and just to say, oh, well, I'm working, it's just I'm not going to let myself be taken advantage of, in that situation. So yeah, a lot of guys that have been playing a while. I'm not the only one. Look, there's a lot of guys. It's a huge number of guys that are good players, have played well, have played in good teams, good situations, that don't have a job because these teams are trying to save themselves, or they say that they have small budgets, which some of them, their budgets are probably smaller, but they're signing rookie guys for you know low money, no money, and it's
Hmm.
like I could stay, I could do other things and make the same amount of money you're offering those guys. And so, but the thing about overseas basketball is the market always opens up at some point. So we start the season, um, say November, end of October, November, if a lot of these leagues start. um, you guys are going to get hurt. Guys are not going to pan out or be as good as the team thought they were going to be, and they're going to look to replace those players because they're going to start losing games or, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm waiting for, to get a call to say, hey, we need you to come in and replace somebody or something like that. And hopefully it's somewhere in like a Germany or France or somewhere like good conditions, good leagues and things like that. And, at that point, I'll probably be willing to take a good opportunity. But until then, I'm just going to stay here and enjoy time with my family and keep myself ready until the phone rings.
Now, I know from following the WNBA in my main line of work, there's a lot of
Hmm.
there's obviously a lot of leagues overseas. Like every country has kind of that promotion relegation system, right? So are
Hmm.
there and you played in Germany, like I said, you were in Cyprus. Um, was there a place that you got to either you didn't expect it to be as good as it was just from that? Actually, I want to go back because I wanted to ask before you went to Australia, what was the furthest you traveled away from home?
Before Australia, we used to go to Mexico on spring break, Canada. It was mostly, I mean, I didn't go to Europe until I started playing. So, yeah, I would say like Mexico or something like that, so not super far, but different country, but that's why I said that Australia, man. I've never had worse jet lag than than that trip. I think I had jet lag for about a week. And yeah, but you get a lot of great experiences traveling, and I've been really thankful and blessed with getting paid to play basketball, but getting to see the world at the same time while playing basketball.
That 2016-17 season where NBC gets promoted.
Hmm.
What was that like? Because I know it's going from second tier to the top tier,
Uh-huh.
but anything like the just European sports again in that promotion relegation, I know that's an exciting time for the fans and an exciting time for the team. So what was that season like? I mean, y'all won 35 games.
Yeah, we with that, it was, so when I came in, and I'll be 100% honest with you, the money I was making that year, I was pissed because it was less than what I had typically been making.
Okay.
Um, but they spun it to me, like, oh, but it's Germany, it's good living conditions, da 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 da, which I knew a little bit, but I didn't really know. So I go there and I was like, man, I didn't want to go because I was like, man, how am I making like less money than what I've been making? But like I've been playing well. Like it wasn't making sense to me. It's like the more time you put in and you're proving that you're a good worker,
The
how
the
are you
salary's
going
supposed to
down in
go up.
salary?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, all right. So I got there and I was pissed. Like I think I ended up using it as like fuel or motivation because the whole year I just like played crazy. So, but the year before they had lost, they were finished bottom two and they got knocked down to second league, but then they wanted to get promoted again. So they put together a pretty solid team of uh, quite a few veteran guys that had played with them, like in the BBL, and then they threw me in there and a couple other guys, and we had a really good coach. I think that was his first year there. He was younger coach trying to like get his foot in the door in a better country because he was from Montenegro. So
Yeah.
just on a high, more sustainable league and a better league. So he knew he kind of had high aspirations, and man, we just went to work and we had a lot of talent. And it all worked well. Everybody did their job, and we were hard to stop in that league. And then, like you said, when we ended up winning, it was like a really good. I mean, anytime you win, you play to win the games, and we won the championship. And there's this big celebration and stuff, and then the team moves up, and I mean, that's probably one of the no, it definitely is one of the biggest highlights of my actual career. Just winning the championship and playing at the level I was playing at was a lot of fun. And we had a good group of guys that kind of hung out together, and a lot of those guys I still talk to regularly this day. So it was a wonderful time.
What's like the weirdest custom you saw or you picked up in any of the places you played in?
The weirdest custom? That's a good question. I've never been asked that question before, man. The weirdest custom, man.
Like I know, like
Look,
I remember we going to Italy on some
uh-huh.
jazz band and just realizing that breakfast was way different. Like it was like croissants and just
Yeah,
like
just like very light. You like, where's the rest
right,
of it?
right.
They're like, oh, we just eat a croissant, drink a coffee, and eat some
They're
yogurt, and
good
then
after that. I was like,
then but then lunch is huge and dinner is really huge. Like you're eating these big meals. Like that was cool to see. I probably said, okay, so I'll tell you this. So uh and people that know me can attest to this. Like I cuss in different languages a lot. So my favorite language my favorite language to curse in is like the any of the Yugoslavian languages, so like Croatian, Serbian, like it's all kind of the same. But yeah, I cuss in that language a lot. They have some really good curse words. But yeah, I think in Italy, like from being in Italy, like I talk with my hands a lot, which is funny
oh
because
yeah.
they really talk with their hands a lot. Um, but the strangest custom, man, I would really have to think about that.
And I bet
The
it's now it's
strangest.
something you don't even think about, probably.
No, no, of that I would do the strangest one to okay, I'll give you the strangest one. So when I played in Japan, they have this thing called Kohai Senpai, which I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but the premise behind it is that you respect your elders. So like somebody that's above you or older than you, um, you respect them, you don't question them, whatever they say kind of goes. And I won't lie, that made it a bit difficult to in a working environment with sports. That made it difficult. That was something that was new to me. Because in sports, it's like if the coach might say run this play, but if you're like, wait a minute, coach, this is not a good play, and what
Right.
about running this? Like, nah, don't question it. Like in Japan,
Okay.
the guy, we a couple of times we would practice for like 3 hours straight. We're just going up and down for like 3 hours. Guys are tired. The practice is sloppy. Everybody's dragging ass or whatever. And I'm like, so and this went on kind of consistently. And I'm like, to the other Japanese guys, like, why doesn't anybody say anything? Oh, no, 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 because the coach. And he was kind of like a player. He was still playing with us at the time, but he was like 45 years old. And he really wouldn't practice with like he practiced for like 30 minutes with us, and then he sit down and just coach. But they were like, no, no, he's older. Like we respect him. We don't say anything. But they would all be complaining. So it was just weird to me because here, in the States, it's like it would be like if the coach was hey coach, man, we need a break. We're tired, man. I think we need to cut it back a little bit or end it earlier. So, something like that would be said by the captain or a veteran player or something. But
Right.
there, they just like nobody said nothing, and they just say, oh, the trainer would be agreeing like we need to stop it, but nobody would say nothing because he was like older than everybody. Was it? Yeah. So and that's a custom that I would say was probably the strangest or that kind of like was hard for me to understand. So
That's different, man. It's something I
mhm.
think is as being black people, black men, it's something like you get, but not to that specific level. Like you got like
Yeah,
aunts or uncles and grandparents where it's like, oh, you listen to them, but that's a different level. I've heard of it in some areas, but not to that, not in sports like that. That had to be difficult, like you said.
yeah. It made it a bit difficult to navigate as far as it's like we're playing sports, we're trying to win these games, we're trying to do this, do that, and so it's like you're not being disrespectful, you're just trying to make it work as best you can, everybody together. But yeah, they don't. It's like we don't say nothing. We just roll with it how we roll with. Try to do make it work as best we can. So that was different.
All right, so the last part I want to get into, obviously, what's going on, what has
Hmm.
been going on, especially with pro basketball this week. NBA, WNBA decided to um, forego the games they were playing. The players came out and made a statement about how they felt about the interactions between people of color and police. And I know this is it's a different subject for everybody because everybody's got a slightly different perspective as individuals. But I mean, you're a black man from the Midwest, and you've been hooping for a long time. But you've also Like I remember sitting in class with you, man. You're a smart dude. You got your eyes open. So how's this affected you? I mean, you like I said, you got a baby coming soon with your wife, and you got your family in Indianapolis. How's it affected you just mentally? What have you been thinking over not only this past year, but just going back in your life? Like, how has this made you who you are today? And like, what do you think about what the players said this week, what they did?
Well, I was first. I'll say that I was proud of to see the players take a stand for something they believe in, and they were pretty united on that front. Um, I think Doc Rivers said something that a lot of us feel. Um, in the fact that we love our country, we love this country. This is our country for generations and hundreds of years of our people, but and we love this country, but the country we feel like the country doesn't love us back. And that's how a lot of black people feel. Um, we have different discussions within our households as you've had them, I've had them, whether it be about how to interact with the police. Um, we always kind of brought up on the you have to work twice as hard to be just as good or get the
Right.
same opportunities, that
Exceptional.
thing. Yeah. Um, so the thing that with all that going on, I look at it from okay, I come from a two-parent household that's a little bit more not necessarily privileged, but I was able to go to private high school and things like this. So I have a broader perspective, a more broad perspective than maybe the average African American male has. So I understand that, and I try to pass down my knowledge or my perspective to other people to say, hey, you know, don't think that, because you see something happen with, it might be they see one racist person or have one race interaction that all white people are racist, that sort of thing. Or, hey, you have to take people for what their worth is at your face value. So if they treat you right, why do you need to have these preconceived notions? Like that's not the way to think about something. But there are a lot of deeply rooted systemic problems within our country that need to be changed, and we we need to change it. We need to okay. We talk about them, we show symbols of them, but we actually we need more black police. We need more black politicians. We need not just black, but black and brown people in these areas that more fairly represent what the country actually is, because we'll have better um, how to say, like, we'll have better results of what we're looking for in these areas. Laws need to change that. You know, you know, we go to sell a house, the black house is devalued lower
I
than if
saw
it
that.
was a
Yeah.
white. Yeah, it's all these things that this could be a whole nother hour conversation that we have and bring up all this stuff. But it has to change, and it's great that these athletes are using their platform and almost making a sacrifice, to bring about some type of change, because them sitting out and boycotting, that's going to hurt the pockets of the networks and things
Hmm.
like this. So now you say, because it's always confused me to say, see people at the gyms to say, how can you support these sports teams and with these black athletes, or you love the black athlete or entertainer, but then if they speak out on something that's socially unjust, that now you have a problem with them, or now you have a problem with the sport or something like that. I don't understand that, because it's not saying, it's not a trying to pick a fight. It's just right versus wrong. Like you think about the Civil Rights Act, like we have to have certain laws in place in our own country that we helped build, that our ancestors helped build, just for us to be treated fairly. Like that baffles me. And the same things that people were talking about and boycotting 60 years ago, 70 years ago, whatever, like we're still talking about the same stuff now. Like,
Right.
but when's it going to change? But we can't just keep talking about it. We have to start doing things. We have to go vote. We have to go, like it's going to be a slow process. It's not like, oh, it's going to happen in 2 or 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years. It's going to be a long process, but it's good that people our age, the younger generation, other uh, people of different ethnicities and things like that, and white people our age and stuff, like we're coming together and starting to see, oh, okay, our country is actually founded on a bunch of lies and, things is not true, or, all this type of stuff. So it's good that we're starting to all wake up, and now we have to start making sure, and these athletes have to be really important because they have brands and this is how they feed their fans, but they have to make sure that they're properly getting themselves set up to implement change in the correct way, and not just talking about it, or, okay, you talked about it, you made a stand, you made maybe a symbolic gesture, but what are you actually, LeBron, what are you actually going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the WNBA, but what are you going to do to help create change? And I think as long as that happens, we're going to be fine. As long as we keep peacefully protesting, and after the protests, the same people that are protesting are going to the, somewhere local, and going to these, going to teach the youth that maybe doesn't have the proper home backing, but they're teaching them the proper things and how to treat people and things like even small things like that are going to be, really big for our country, because, if we continue to stay divided in our own country and not come together, well, that's just going to hurt us overall, and the strength of America is going to decline vastly. And then we're not, because everybody, oh, America, we're this world power, and people look up to us, and we have this American dream and these American ideas. People, I live in Germany for the last 4 years of my life, and I'm like, man, life's better over there. And it is at the moment, and they have a lot of things implemented there that, we could take and implement here, but we're too worried about money and big business and things like that. And there's a lot of European countries, okay, they have less people, whatever, but economically these things can be implemented here, but they're laughing at us because we sit there and go, oh, I'll put a flag shirt on or something, America, and we spend all this money on military and we think we're great, and we're not. We don't put nearly as much enough money towards education, and they do. And that's why they make better decisions overall, politically, economically, things like that. What are we waiting for? And we're so worried about, capitalism and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, that we're dividing ourselves without even knowing it. And I mean, there's so many things. It could be a whole another conversation, but I would just challenge people to, because my whole thing is I don't want to let it, as much as everything's going on, I want to just continue to educate myself, continue to live, even though I'm a Black man and people might come to me and ask my opinion and how things make me feel. I want to continue to listen to other people and to continue to learn. Just because you Black don't mean you have all the answers. There's a lot of Black people that we have the wrong answer. We're not doing the right things. When the police tell you to do something, just do it. Don't flee, don't run, don't put yourself in a position. Now, is that right? Probably not. And there needs to be a lot more better police training and things like that. But if they say, hey, get on the ground or do this, do that, then just do it. Don't give them a reason.
I see what you're saying.
And that's what and that'll teach. That's what I'll teach to my kids, and that's what you should be teaching your kids. Like, everybody has a job to do, and not everybody's perfect. But I'm not defending the bad police, because there's bad police in the police business. There should be no bad apples, as we say. But that's a job that a lot of people speak about, but these same people wouldn't even do the job just because of the danger of it. You're so quick to speak on the, I have a friend, a Black man that's a policeman, and he was telling me, like, he challenges people to come on a ride along. And I had some of my other close friends that I communicate with every day. They won't go on a ride along with him because they're scared, but they're the first ones to always criticize the police and and I know there's still there's a big gap with police relations and Black people, because we all feel it, let's be honest. So I'm not giving that a pass, but at the same time, we can't always just react off emotion, to see what, because a lot of times in police, they have to act on the law, and the law there is black or white. Did you commit a crime? That sort of thing. If the police show up, they showed up for a reason,
I get what you're saying.
and we need the police. But and the George Floyd, 100% wrong. He told me that himself. He said that was wrong. That was bad. And that's why I like talking to him and just listening to him, because he's out in the streets having all these interactions with people, and he's had to fight people that, you know, are trying to get to a gun and stuff, like at a gas station at 1 in the morning and things like this. I wouldn't want to do that job with you, you know. But he knows that without his badge, if he, or when he takes it off, that he is a black man. So he's very fair in how he explains things and his reasoning. But you know, I don't want to just throw that out there like it's the police versus the black people, but because there's a lot of sides to things that we have to be conscious of. But you know, this is a very, all of it is very deep, is very, it's very complicated, but we just need to all continue to educate ourselves and continue to you know, really, and just people in general, just treat others how you want to be treated. We got to get rid of this hate and everything. And sorry I'm being long-winded,
No,
but
you're
it's
good, man.
just
It's nuanced, like you said, and you got an interesting perspective having. Because I'll tell you true, and I know we're coming to the near the end of our time, but
um,
um, coming up, I was very, I didn't have police in my family or anything like that, but I was like, you know, it's the police. They're here to protect and like help people out. And when my mom gave me that talk the first time, I was like, I kind of brushed it off, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I think a couple weeks later, I was standing at a bus stop after a sleepover at my friend's house. So I was tired. Like I was sitting there falling asleep, standing up. And I see a car go one way down the street, like down the boulevard. And I'm like, man, it would be weird if they came back. Like I was in a haze. And then they came back around and asked me something. And I was like, hey, somebody just held up this McDonald's. And I was 16. And like I said, I had a
mm,
pillow under my arm. Like I wasn't doing anything. So, and then Bradley, I had a couple things happen that just really, really changed things over where it's kind of been that journey. So that's why I asked you, like, how's that shaped
mhm,
you coming up as a young man and to this point. So, but like you said, you got a real nuanced perspective, and I identify with a lot of what you're saying. And I wish we should come back to this because I know that there's things that we might not agree on, but we could at least come to a
mhm.
like we could coalesce on like where we need to go
Yeah,
from here.
yeah.
But like you said, the most
Mhm.
important part is that you got to keep educating yourself on everything that's surrounding you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, a lot of people are even afraid to talk to people they know or have conversation because they're like, "Well, I'm gonna disagree with him. I know we're not gonna agree." So, but it's okay to get along and be cool with people or be friends with people and have relationships with people, but you don't see things the same. Like that's the beauty of like life and the beauty of living in America. Like everybody's entitled to their own thoughts and opinions, and that's what makes the world go round. But that doesn't mean you have to dislike somebody because hey, you know, we might talk about 10 things and three of those things we might not agree on. You know, oh man, forget Chris, he doesn't agree with, like nobody's ever going to agree with you 100%, but it's good to have those conversations because different perspectives can offer you a different, can open up your mind to things that in ways that you never thought of them before. So um yeah, man, I just enjoy the dialogue, like you said, because you know, the biggest thing for me, I try to tell people unplug from social media too, because like even if it's temporarily, you know, not to come fully, but you know, there's just so much stuff and people just, you know, these people are bots. You even have bots on Twitter that are just saying,
Yeah,
you know, it's unbelievable now, like with all this technology. So, but you just get away from that and like you said, go read, go educate yourself, have conversation with other people, different types of people, have conversation with people that are in the police force or you know, in the military or different that do different things, and you know, and then start to formulate, you know, what you want to feel from there. But don't just think one way and think if nobody thinks the way you think that they're wrong and you don't want to have anything to do with them. That's not the right way to go about things either. But I will leave it like this, that I really am enjoying what I see as far as our era, the our group of people around our age, just awakening to things that, you know, the things that are wrong about our country, you know, systemically, and the things that are unjust, because it's not a political thing. It's a thing that's between right and wrong. You know, Black Lives Matter and things. Like people are really afraid to say that. Well, don't say that. Like no, but they, all lives matter. What? How can you say all lives matter if you don't believe Black Lives Matter? Then all
exactly.
lives don't matter. You know. So you can keep it simple. You can simplify things, and yeah, but I think it's a good time for people like us. We're here for a reason right now. We're here on this earth in this situation for a reason, and let's try to do as best we can to make change, whether we think it's small change or big change. Even the smallest change is still change, and I think that'll propel us in the right direction.
It's when What's Good Radio. I'm Chris Pennant here with, again, my Com 101 classmate, Andrew Warren. One last thing, Drew. If you had to go back and give your 17, 18-year-old self coming into college one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Network, build as many relationships that you can with as many different types of people as you can, and just um, enjoy each step and each day, because it goes fast, and once it's gone, you can't get it back. Time is one of the most valuable things, if not the most valuable thing that we have in life. Um, I think you would agree with me. College is like the best time of your life, and as think, oh, I got 4 years, and those 4 years go by
Man,
like a flash of light, and then when it's over, it's over. So then you start having all these major responsibilities that you're like, man, if I could just go back to when I was in college or something, and just relive those days. But that's what I would tell my younger self.
for sure. Thanks again for coming on, Drew. Drew Warren, international ball player, Bradley grad, Brebeuf Jesuit grad. Congratulations again, you and your wife, on your upcoming child. I'm excited for you
Thank
both,
you.
and I'm excited for your family, man. Thanks again for coming on. This has been What's Good Radio. Follow Drew Warren on Twitter. Want to see him playing hopefully this fall. We're waiting for that call to come. Appreciate it, man. For everybody who out there watching, be good, do great things. Appreciate it. All right, man. We're out. Yo, that was real cool, man. I know I
Cool.
kept you to
Thanks,
about the
man.
hour and
Appreciate it.
everything, but
No, I talk a lot, so that's probably more my doing than anything. So
that was good, man.
it's just a lot going. It's just a lot, like I said. And like I said, I tell people, don't let it stress you out. The black man, we die younger, and a lot of it's different variables, but a big part of it is stress, man. We live with that monkey on our back of just like being a black man in America, and dealing with things like now what's going on, and feeling like we're not loved, and like there's like we got to do even more just to be recognized as just as good, and things like that. But don't let it stress you out, and just try to continue to educate yourself on as many different things, man. Whether it be just economically, about our true history as blacks, even you could trace it back to Africa. All that stuff is important, man. I think if we do those things, we'll have pride, we'll be proud, we'll pass that knowledge on, and we'll do the things that we need to do to have change, here in this country. So, yeah, man.
For sure, man. I mean, if I want to, with the stuff that we got to at the end, and some other things for sure,
Uh-huh.
I want to come back with you on. So I'll figure
Uh-huh.
out some things, but I want to get this posted soon. But if you ever got time,
Okay.
you've got a free hour, I'd love to have you come back
Dude,
on.
dude, I'm free, right? I'm free. I go do my workout, and it's like 2 hours out of the day, and then the rest I'm just kind of like, well, like I said, now I'm not just not doing nothing, but
Right.
I have a lot of free time, man. So like you said, just it's nothing for me to whenever just you can record it and post it later, whatever. But I got a lot of free time, and just let me know. So because I'm just networking for coaching. I'm thinking about actually doing broadcasting. That's
Hey,
couple of my friends have suggested that to me, so I'm trying to figure out some ways I can open up, because it's easy for me to call coaches. Like, I know coaches, I'm still cool. Like, me and Coach Les are still tight. Like,
hmm
I got other coaches that's all over it. So it's easy for me to call a coach and say, hey, I'm done playing, or I'm interested in coaching, and start networking that way. But it's not as easy to do broadcasting. But I think it would be something I'd be really good at. So I
you
just
talked to Brian Beto?
No, but Bobby Parker told me about him. I guess he's starting to kind of like do really well and stuff. So I'm actually going to reach out to Bobby, because Bobby we had a conversation because Bradley didn't say anything when all the Black Lives Matter shit was going on at Georgia. They didn't say nothing like the school. So we kind of, me and Chris Roberts and older player who was like before we got there named James Gillingham kind of voiced some frustration and things. And so I ended up just talking to Bobby and having a good conversation. And then he was like, yeah, man, like if you're around, I know he's like, I know you're not around because season goes on and like during our season, but he's like, if you're ever home for like Christmas, you want to like be on like radio or something, like be there as like a guest calling the game or something. He was like, I'll be more than happy to help you make it happen. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely reach out to him and say, hey, this is gonna be one of my other options. If I don't coach, it would be this. So, and then try to connect some dots from there.
For sure, man. Brian was cool with, like, he was, I think, a year before we got in. I think he graduated, but
Okay.
I met him on a surprise or something, just with I think he either came into one of the games that we were doing for like student broadcast, but he's always been cool since I've
Uh-huh.
been there,
Okay.
and he stays up here in Chicago, so
Okay.
um, I can get his info and link you up with him if you want, because he's good to talk to. He's been in the business, he knows people, and you, like, just from listening to you now, I think you got like halfway there. You've watched sports. There's a lot of athletes who come in to do color who have a real tough time with it. So
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, I spoke with Robbie Hummel, who's part of Big Ten Network and does
yeah,
stuff on ESPN. He gave me some good advice, and he was like, "Yeah, reach out to the people at your school and things like that." I said, "Yeah," because so unfortunately we don't have a Missouri Valley Conference network or nothing like
right.
that where I could reach out to somebody. Uh, but uh, but yeah, so I'm trying to. I'm trying to. Well, I will say that I'm interested in starting to connect some dots for that if I decide to go that route because like coaching, I feel like I would love coaching. It would be my passion. Like the one thing though, it's like a huge time commitment and like being away from your family. Where like
Right.
you're doing a game, you can go do a game. You might do 2 games a week, and then the rest of the week you're with your family. You
You
don't
got
have
your
to go
time.
recruit.
Yeah,
You don't have to be at yeah. So that's why I'm kind of like looking at that too. So and for the simple fact that I think I will be good at it. I speak well. I know the game. I have a professional career. Things like that. I've been told I have a decent look, a good look for like TV and things like that. I can, pass and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be something I'm gonna look into. So yeah, if you could forward me, you can. I sent you my email, so if you can forward me
yeah,
Brian's info or text it to me, whatever, and then I'll reach out to him and just kind of try to pick his brain a bit because since especially it always helps somebody that went to your school and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would definitely appreciate that.
for sure, man. I got you. I'll send that out to you, and I'll let you know when the
Okay.
episode's up. Thanks, man.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Hey, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. Any way I can help you, man. And like you said, anytime you want to do it or post it later, whatever, hey, just let me know, man. I'm more than happy to help you. We always had good conversations in college and stayed in touch. You always kept track even when after Bradley and stuff like that. So um yeah, I appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, man. Just wanted to see y'all do well. I appreciate it, man.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So what exactly are you doing now?
So I got my day job. If you heard a guaranteed rate, the mortgage company, I'm working
Yeah,
for them
yeah,
full
the name
time.
at the that's who the
Yeah,
field's
the
named
at the
after.
field, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I've been covering, basically, I was doing WNBA and NBA for the outlet I'm with, War Media, but
Okay.
the Bulls have been so disappointing, and
Man.
the Sky is just, it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I've been
yeah.
covering a
I
lot
like
of
play.
WNBA.
Hey, yeah, don't discriminate, man. I'm gonna be a girl dad. People discriminate, but them girls can play. Them girls can play, man. So
For
I
sure,
know a lot of them and stuff. So yeah, man. So yeah, anything you need, man, let me know. And then let me know when you post that and I'll, retweet it and all that type of stuff. So let me know.
for sure. I got you. All right, be easy with it,
Okay.
man.
All right, Chris. Later, man.